Trump threatens Russia with tariffs and boosts U.S. weapons for Ukraine, including long-range ones. Everyone, Johnny here, Don't Speak News. We'll just get into this like we always do. So Trump said it again. Now he's threatening Russia and President Putin in particular with heavy sanctions. In fact, let's see how heavy they might actually be. Right here from Blazing Press over on Telegram. Breaking news, Donald Trump set to make major announcement on Russia putting 500% tariffs on all BRIC nations. So Senator Lindsey Graham says the sanctions bill would give Trump a sledgehammer against Russia amid a turning point in the war with Ukraine. Senator Lindsey Graham, a South Carolina Republican, said Sunday that a turning point regarding Russia, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, is coming amid a bipartisan effort in Congress to impose new economic sanctions aimed at ramping up pressure on the Kremlin to end the war in Ukraine. For months, President Trump has tried to entice Russian President Putin to the peace table. He's put tariffs against countries that allow fentanyl to come into our country and other bad behavior. He's left the door open regarding Russia. That door is about to close, Graham said on Face the Nation. That was been yesterday, Sunday. Graham outlined that he and Senator Richard Blumenthal, a Connecticut Democrat who also appeared Sunday on Face the Nation, are leading 85 co-sponsors on a sanctions bill that he said would make a sledgehammer available to President Trump to go after Putin's economy and all those countries who prop up the Putin war machine. Okay, not to mention China, right? Putting 500% tariffs on them, a trading partner with Russia. Really? That wouldn't affect the economy here at all, right? Give me a break. These people are insane. They just want war. They're programmed for war. The South Carolina Republican explained that countries like China, India, and Brazil buy oil and other goods from Russia, saying that the money Putin uses to prosecute the war. Right. Graham said the sanctions package would give the president the ability to impose 500% tariffs on any country that helps Russia. Like I said, that would include China, right? So everything that we're importing from them, which is most of our stuff, right? Car parts, everything else, says made in China on it. All those things would be 500% more. All of it, just like that. Of course, whether or not he actually does that's another thing. But that's what's being talked about here, along with more weapons. Let's get to that part of it. This over at Hal Turner's website. So they're trying to put all these sanctions on in an effort to compel Putin to end the Ukrainian war. And basically, it's the same offer or a similar offer that Trump gave to Iranians, right? Accept our peace deal or else. We're going to bomb the you-know-what out of you. And that's what they did, even though they said that they weren't going to. And that, oh, Israel is not going to do anything either. And, and then what happened? So, in my opinion, these long-range missiles that they're talking about here, they could start striking with those at any moment. They're probably already in Ukraine or on the way. So Trump plans to start supplying Ukraine with medium long-range missiles for massive strikes on their production facilities. And that would be in Moscow, St. Petersburg, Yekaterinburg, and Chelyabinsk. The first phase involves transferring several hundred Jasmer missiles to Ukraine with a stated range of about 1,000 kilometers. These missiles are planned to be launched from F-16 aircraft, several dozen of which Trump also intends to provide Ukraine as part of the first Trump administration aid package. Up until today, all the U.S. aid flowing into Ukraine was promised by the Biden regime. So the Jasmer missile from Google search results looks like that. It's an AGM-158 Joint Air-to-Surface Missile. It's a low-detection standoff air-launched cruise missile developed by Lockheed Martin for the United States Armed Forces. It is a large, stealthy, long-range weapon with a 1,000-pound armor-piercing warhead. It completed testing and entered service with the U.S. Air Force in 2009. Now, an extended range of the missile, the AGM-158B, Jasmer ER, Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missile Extended Range, entered service in 2014, as well as an anti-ship derivative, the long-range anti-ship missile in 2018. So, according to the Intel comms, the goal is to enable Ukraine to carry out massive long-range missile strikes, several dozen cruise missiles per salvo, on Moscow and St. Petersburg. And of course, we've already talked about the drone attacks they're planning as well. where key design bureaus and production facilities for military equipment such as the Iskander ballistic missiles are located. Now, the second phase, to be implemented if Putin refuses to agree to fair terms, who's fair terms, right? For ending the conflict after the first phase involves supplying Ukraine with Tomahawk long-range missiles capable of striking targets at distances of several thousand kilometers, along with mobile launch containers for mass launches. The primary targets would be armored vehicle production facilities in the Urals in cities like Yekaterinburg and Shelbyinsk. It is worth reminding you, or all of you, that Tomahawks are nuclear capable. Russia has no way of knowing if the Tomahawks coming at them are nuclear armed. Hence, they may launch nukes at us upon detection. There is also consideration of transferring advanced PRSM ballistic missiles in one of the aid packages, with Moscow as their primary target, which could be launched from dozens of HIMARS systems already supplied to Ukraine. So according to Intel comms, Trump plans to begin supplying long-range missiles this month. Yes, by the end of this month, from what I've been seeing. Immediately after a sanctions bill against Russia and its partners passes through Congress and the Senate, and it's already ready to go. Like I just showed you, Lindsey Graham has 80-some co-sponsors for this thing. So it's ready. So to facilitate these deliveries, Trump intends to employ a strategy developed under the Biden administration, initially supplying a small amount of weaponry, assessing Putin's response, and subsequently increasing deliveries if there are no retaliatory actions that could threaten U.S. national interests. At some point, there's going to be. So Hal Turner's snap analysis: if Trump implements this plan, we enter a prelude to World War III. The margin for error disappears, and any miscalculation, spoofed radar return, or false flag could trigger global thermonuclear escalation. This would be brinksmanship with ICBMs on the table. Indeed, it would be. A strike Moscow first strategy hasn't been seriously considered by any U.S. administration since the Cuban Missile Crisis era war planners. It seems to me, and I'm just making a personal analysis of the situation and offering my analysis publicly, considering I do not speak for Russia or anyone else and therefore cannot control any of this, I just want to clear that this is not some sort of threat by me, because it's not. In my view, if Moscow, St. Petersburg are hit by Western missiles, then Russia will likely respond with direct and vicious hits to the decision-making centers that enabled that to happen. Hint, it wouldn't be in Ukraine. Indeed, it would be on NATO and the United States itself. And I would imagine if we're going to hit their weapon-making centers, they'd want to hit ours. Just, it's logical. Russia has also has escalation dominance here. They can turn the pain dial all the way up. So if American missiles launched by Ukraine hit Moscow and St. Petersburg, I think Americans should not be surprised if Russian missiles are sent to hit cities here in the USA. Indeed, especially where Lockheed Martin and all the other weapons makers are located. So there you go. That's the latest on the escalation with Russia and Ukraine and Trump. As Trump sets up this massive shell game deception, it says here on Leo's newsletter on Substack, to keep the Ukrainian war machine going and threaten Russia with an ultimatum. Trump announced this deal to sell U.S. weapons to U.S.-dominated NATO, which would then funnel them to Ukraine. It would be a boon for U.S. weapons makers, but how does this benefit the American taxpayer? It doesn't. It really doesn't. Think about it. It's just putting 500% tariffs on countries like China, which deal with Russia, is going to destroy the American economy. And of course, selling these weapons and allowing Ukraine to use them and helping them to use them because they take U.S. satellites to operate, well, to reach their targets, right? So then that brings the U.S. directly into conflict with Russia. There's just no way around it. And so President Trump threatened Russia on Monday it will face extreme tariffs if it doesn't end the war with Ukraine within 50 days. So they've got 50 days to comply, or else. While at the same time announcing plans for aggressive new weapons transfers to Kiev via NATO. Well, that's what they've been doing the whole time. Using his familiar language of being very, very unhappy with Vladimir Putin, Trump emphasized his patience has run its course with the Russian leader's refusal to end his 3.5-year-old war with Ukraine. We're going to be doing very severe tariffs if we don't have a deal within 50 days, tariffs at about , Trump said during an Oval Office meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. Trump said there would be secondary tariffs, meaning they would target Russia's remaining trade partners, making them particularly devastating because any country that does trade with Russia would be hit with 100% tariffs, it says here, on its goods coming into the U.S. And of course, they could be up to 500%, according to Lindsey Graham. And we know Trump loves drama. He loves dramatics. So he would probably go with the higher one, is my guess. But on the flip side, this could also devastate the U.S. economy because Russia's biggest ally and one of its biggest trading partners is China. Imagine if there are 100% tariffs on all Chinese goods, or 500% coming into America. Inflation would soar through the roof. Trump and NATO Chief Rutte also announced a creative financing deal in which the NATO military alliance would buy arms from the United States, including not just Patriot anti-missile batteries, but offensive weapons as well, and then send them to Ukraine to help it battle Russia's invasion. Trump said billions of dollars worth of military equipment is going to be purchased from the United States going to NATO, and that's going to be quickly distributed to the battlefield in Ukraine. Since the U.S. is by far the biggest component of NATO, accounting for more than 70% of its total funding, this is a bit like the U.S. selling weapons to itself and then funneling them to its proxy against Russia. Exactly. The U.S. taxpayers are still on the hook for all of it. It's like a corrupt corporate titan setting up a separate entity, a shell corporation, that washes the money before sending it out to enrich the Titan family members. Indeed, that's exactly what it's like. Rutte said Ukraine would get massive numbers of weapons under the deal. Russia has been winning this war, consistently taking territory from the enemy in recent months, which is why Putin doesn't want to stop the fighting. What party to any war in history ever wanted a ceasefire when they were on the brink of victory? That would be like the U.S. surrounding Japan in World War II after they'd taken all those islands, right? And then the rest of the world going to the U.S. and saying, stop. We demand that you have a ceasefire right now while they're on the brink of victory. It wouldn't have happened. Why would Russia agree to anything like that? But Trump is trying to intervene in a way that he hopes will pressure Putin to do exactly that. The risk is that Putin reacts by taking the war directly to NATO, which he's going to do at some point, something he doesn't want to do, but may feel like he has no choice, with the alliance continuing to escalate its support for Ukraine. They're just going to slowly pick him apart if he doesn't do something. So he says we elected Trump. Well, I didn't vote for Trump. I didn't vote for anyone. But anyway, my support's behind Jesus Christ, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. But he says we elected Trump to win this war because it always had the potential to blow up into World War III. Having failed to do so, Trump thinks he's figured out a way to change the narrative. Instead of the U.S. funding the war with taxpayer-funded weapons and aid, he's now saying that he can keep the war going in a way that actually profits the U.S. Treasury. It's pure smoke and mirrors. Exactly. They're selling weapons to themselves. So if Trump supporters fall for this one, then he's just hoodwinked them into backing a plan that allows him to pursue what I believe was the goal all along, to keep the war against Russia going while claiming it's not costing us anything. That's what the British and U.S. governments wanted all along, in my opinion. They just had to figure out a way to flip the narrative in such a way that conservative America First patriots could buy into it. So are you ready to buy in? I'm not. Especially after what we already talked about with Epstein and that whole fiasco. So, wow. So now he's threatening Russia. Accept my peace deal within 50 days or else. I'll keep my eyes on this stuff as much as I can, guys, but wow, there's a lot to keep our eyes on. Now, don't forget to keep your eyes on don'tspeaknews.com. That's home base for everything that we do. And I put up stories here that we can't talk about anywhere else, like this one over here. Bluetooth-enabled microchip, mark of the beast, stuff like that. All kinds of them here on don'tspeaknews.com. Just put this one up, too, a guest post by Professor Michael Chistovsky at Global Research. Sent this my way. And it's about the 12-day war against Iran and how Trump and his administration are bold-faced liars. A very good read. I highly recommend it, which is why I put it up here. And then, of course, all kinds of other stories that we just can't speak about anywhere else right here at don'tspeaknews.com. And that will be all for now. I'll put the links up in the website as always. God bless, take care. Johnny Storm, Don't Speak News.